Hey everyone, it's Aisha White and I am here with Mishea la Russell. We're here in Chattanooga. I'm here visiting my friend. It's actually the first time that we've met up since we first met. We first met at a concert for an artist, Bryce Avery or The Rocket Summer, and it's awesome to be able to meet you again. It's been some years.
It's been several years. I was in college when we first met, so It's been a few years since then, so that's crazy.
Well, Mishea is a poet. She is also a musician. She's a founder of an event called Words with Women, and she hosts a IGTV series called Motivational Mishy Mondays. It's each Monday at, what time is it, 7:30?
It's like 8 o'clock. Yeah.
8 o'clock on IGTV. So if you have an Instagram account, definitely go over there and catch her on Mondays. I will link through to her social media accounts in the description area of this video. So once again, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with my first question and just ask you, at what age did you begin writing poetry?
So I actually started writing poetry not too long ago. It was right after college. I was 21. So, and I'm 24 now, so it's only been 3 years. And so, I started writing poetry. I actually hated poetry. I really did. In school, I was like, poetry sucks. It's all these rules and rhymes and rhythms and Shakespeare and all of that. And I was like, I just don't get it. I feel like I have to be a certain type of person to understand poetry.
Yeah.
But then, due to a circumstance I was dealing with emotionally, I looked to poetry. I picked up a poetry book at Barnes & Noble, and it was Rupi Kaur's Milk and Honey.
Okay.
And I was like, is this poetry? Because it didn't rhyme. It was 3 lines. I was like, but it struck me so hard, and I was like, oh my gosh. And my best friend was like, you should get it, and just check it out. Poetry doesn't have to be all those rhymes and different things. And so I took it and I read the whole thing, and I was like, this touched my soul so deeply. And I was like, poetry doesn't have to be rhythmic and all of that stuff. It can be, and it's beautiful when it is. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that. So that's when I started trying and attempting to write poetry. I at first did it really secretively. I created the secret Tumblr account called Scared to Say, because I was like, I'm scared to really jump into this, but I want to somehow express myself. So that's where it all began for me.
Wow. I really like the start of that, and just the fact that you were kind of turned off by it, because you're like, this is what poetry is to me, the way it's been defined in the past, and then you being able to literally open up a book and see it presented in a completely different way. And you're like, oh wow, it opens up a whole new world for you.
Exactly.
And I think that so often with creative endeavors, whether it's writing, art, photography, you have this preconceived notion of what that means and the way that it's presented. And then you see an example of something that's completely different than that, and it welcomes you into it. And so even coming down to representation and being maybe African Americans or different things like that, different people of different races don't participate in some sort of art, and then you see somebody that's hey, representing for us in some sort of way, and you're like, wow.
No, I didn't know I could do that. Yes, and I kind of feel like that's what also struck my passion with other people who want to write and any sort of writing. They feel oh, but I have to look a certain way or be a certain way or have a certain type of personality or mindset or thought process. And I'm like, if you want to write, you should just write. You should just try it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to fail so many times. And I've definitely done that. And just pushing past those preconceived notions and those stereotypes is so huge. So that's what really helped me start my poetry journey for sure.
And so how did you transition from writing poetry to, I know that you perform on stage also, I guess, how did that opportunity open up for you?
So I was attending these workshops because I was it was the beginning of 2018. I was I've kept my poetry silent for a whole year, only online stuff. And I was I should try to go to poetry workshops, meet other poets, see if I really fit into this. And I was going, and people were yeah, you're totally a poet, and all this stuff. And there was just an opportunity. This guy was trying to find poets to just do the show. We weren't getting paid for it, but just for some exposure. And I was this is a good opportunity for me, because I was maybe I could perform this stuff. I don't know. I just felt there's a difference between writing it and then recording it and like putting it on a song or whatever, and then like really performing it. And I was a cheerleader in high school, so that's kind of the performance aspect. I loved to sing, and I did kind of perform back then, but I kind of shut that kind of off because I was like, I don't know, like if I have what it takes.
Yeah.
And I really had to like dive into a different part of myself, a more emotional side of me, in order to be like a poet performer. Like you can't just like, it's more than just like reciting, like when you're in school, like I memorized this. Like no, it's not just memorization, it's getting into it. And they really had to teach me, and it was a humbling experience to rehearse. So yeah, that's how I got into more of the performance aspect of it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, going beyond just that's what I was wondering, like how it went from just on page to, like you said, it's a whole performance of it.
Yeah.
To a degree, you're learning how to act on stage, what to do with your body, your voice, and all these different things. So,
yes.
Yeah.
It was definitely an in-depth process. I cried a lot. I cried because I cried because I wasn't getting it. I felt like I cried because I was like, I don't know how I can pull this emotion from me, especially if you're kind of far removed from a poem,
right,
and you've healed from it. You have to kind of delve, and it's hard because you have to delve back into that, and it's really difficult. But yeah, it's different. But I enjoyed it, and I feel like I really want to get back into it, which I will this summer, so it'll be nice.
Yeah. Well, I know you're performing on stage, but then also you are a musician. You play music. Have you written your own songs before also?
Ooh, the first song, and kind of actually the last song I ever wrote was my freshman year in college. And it's weird now because as a poet, I'm like, poets and songwriters are totally the same people, sort of. Like there are different aspects. You have to do more songs and stuff, but even poets, they speak and they have to record sometimes with sound behind them, and so it's like interesting. So yeah, the more I think about like music, it's more just like a side thing. Like I'll play for the kids at the preschool I work at, or like right now I play for a service at a church every Sunday, and it's more just like another creative outlet for me, and it actually helps my stage presence because I get so nervous in front of people, and so like every time right before I get on, I'm like really nervous, but it just helps me like, okay, I'm in front of people, I'm doing this creative thing. It helps just like get, ease the nerves just a little bit. I still get nervous, I feel like, every time, but like just a little less and less. So, yeah.
Which one do you enjoy more, or what do you enjoy about each? About playing the music, then the on-stage performance with the poetry?
Ooh, honestly, I do love just the in-depth emotion, even though it really takes time for you to hone that skill. I love just the emotion of saying what you're saying and feeling it at the same time. And honestly, I feel like my favorite part of performing poetry is I zone out. Like and that's how I know that like I mean what I say, and I'm like, I have completely left where I am and I'm in that emotion completely. And I mean, I'll perform pieces and I'll get off and I'll be like, I have no idea what I just did, what I just said, but I know that like I meant everything and I put my all into it. And so that's my favorite part of it. It's just literally that zoning out period of like, y'all ain't here. It's literally just me pouring my heart and soul out. And for music, I don't know. I kind of just feel like just and I don't know what word to use. Kind of just like the entertainment aspect. When I play for the kids, it's like, it's mostly just to get them, riled up and dancing, and it's really fun, and I can be kind of silly and I can mess up, and and then playing for the church service, it's being able to worship in that aspect. And so I don't know. Those are just like different things that I like about it. It's fun things and then super deep things, and
I think it's a mixture of both, because music can be fun, and it's like putting the kids in a good mood, and like sometimes it's like herding cats, like
it is herding cats.
And so you're like, all right, let's come together and play this song, but then at the same time, a song can just like touch your soul, and so it has the ability to do all those different things. Yeah, so I was just curious, what are the different aspects of it that you enjoy? So it's nice to have those things to lean on, and like you're saying, I hadn't even considered that. It's like, it helps with the nerves playing the music. I'm like, I like it.
Thanks. I just thought about that actually last week, because I was like, I get nervous every time I come in here and do this, and then I'm like, well, it's probably going to help my stage presence eventually. It's something just to practice with, and so yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my questions I had for you, is if you dealt with nerves when you were on stage, and what was the way that you like calmed yourself.
Yeah, I think I definitely deal with nerves. I feel like a lot of performers, I won't say everyone because everyone's different.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of performers probably do deal with nerves, because it's like, maybe it's something you haven't said in a long time, maybe it's something that you're just now saying for the first time and it's really deep, and it's I deal with it in the fact of like, I have to sit there, I have to pray. I have to be like, okay, like, remind me of why I'm doing this and the purpose of it, and it's not about me, and it's not about how I look, and it's not about what I say necessarily as much as how it touches people. And so I just have to pray beforehand, remind myself why I'm doing this, get up there and just be myself, honestly. Being yourself, because there is people are like, you want to be yourself, you do want to have like this sort of performance, but you still want to be genuine. Like, you don't want to be a robot and like act, and don't act like yourself at all. And so it's the balance of those two things.
Yeah. You were saying that no one's immune to having nerves when you're on stage and you're performing. So you're saying that music helps with the nerves. I guess I'm wondering, does the audience, like the energy of the audience, play into that? Because I was a theater minor, and so I was able to be in a play in Macbeth that was like the full production that we were in, and then I had some monologues that I performed during the time that I was in college. And I know for me, the energy of the crowd, depending on the night, like that had a lot to do with how I performed, and like you're just very much so like playing off the crowd. So I'm wondering how much of an influence that has on you, and how comfortable you feel, or how much you're giving on stage.
It's interesting. When I first read the question, I was thinking, I was like, well, honestly, like, I don't know if I even feel the crowd, because like I said, I zone out. Like and it's not even that I like don't feel myself talking to them, right? Because I am, like, I'm having a conversation with you in a sense, but it's like it's a weird balance between I am zoned out, I'm focused on how I feel about what I'm talking to you about, but then like if an audience member's like yes, or like says something, then like, or that's something that makes me laugh, like I won't be afraid to like laugh in the middle of my of my performance or anything. But I feel like the last few times that I have performed, like I think just feeling the sense that the audience is engaged is just a nice feeling to have. It's like, okay, you have their attention, like they're listening, like you're able to, and it's like having a conversation with you, like or anybody, like it's nice to have that presence of I'm listening to you, and it just makes you open up more. You're more vulnerable, and you're able to really step into that emotional space and be like, okay, like now you can take this because you're engaging in it, So
Nice. And so if we're transitioning from this idea of being on stage into being in front of the camera, like we are right now, and during your IGTV series, Motivational Mishy Mondays, you're talking to the camera, and so it's a different dynamic, because it's totally different. I guess technically we can comment and like your stuff and versus you, but you're not in front of a crowd of people. And so do you have to pull from a different place to have that energy to project on screen, or like what? I guess, how do you prep for something like that?
I feel like Motivational Mishy Mondays goes so. I feel like it goes so quick because you only have 10 minutes on Instagram TV, and so I know that I do get nervous every time right before I record. I'm always like, why am I nervous again? Like I've literally done this last week, but several weeks beforehand. But it's because I'm encouraging people, and I want to make sure that it's coming from a genuine place, and it doesn't just sound like I'm telling you these things, like here's some tips. I do want to give you tips, but I also want you to know that I understand sometimes where you're coming from, because I'm human too. We all come from different places and situations, or have experienced the same things, and have felt the same things, and so I always have to stop and be like, okay, again, it's kind of like when I'm performing, it's like, why am I doing this? What am I trying to say? And then it is difficult because of the time limit. I don't want to sound too quick, and I don't want to sound like I don't care about a certain, point than another, or, it's just different. It's like having to, and talking to yourself kind of
Right.
at a camera is like, it's like I'm literally talking to myself right now, but this is going out to the masses.
Yeah.
Like, this is weird. And it's crazy because I used to do it on Instagram Live, which is more of an audience, but you have like, I feel like in a sense, you have that barrier when you're on live, like, yeah, it's an audience, but you know, they're like everywhere. And then like now recording it, there's even bigger barrier. 'Cause it's like, not only is it just, you know, I'm recording to myself, but then like I literally am not live saying these things. So people are commenting after the fact. So I think in some ways those two barriers of like not being in front of someone live, it kind of helps the nerves a little bit, because it's like, oh, if I mess up or if I say something, like it's not live, like it's not, you know what I mean? Like I can always just like stop and edit it, do whatever. If I pick my nose by accident, it's like, oh, like I'm live, but no, like, you know, you can always just edit stuff out. So yeah,
I respect people who do like these lives and like streaming on, whether it's like YouTube, Instagram, because I'm like, I have yet to do something like that, and I just honestly, I'm relying on editing right now.
No, it's hard.
It's hard to fill those spaces, because that's kind of the point of my channel, is becoming a better communicator. And there are plenty of times where there are like pregnant pauses, and I'm like, if I was live right now,
I remember being live sometimes and being like, yeah, you know, like I'd be like, this is what I have to say on that, and like, what do you guys think? And that's another thing though, on live, like you can pull from other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of miss that aspect. Whereas, and even though like my Instagram TV series, like truly, I'm doing like a one take. It's a one take.
Yeah.
Rarely do I really edit things, just because, well, one, I'm a person, and like, you know, and it's harder to edit things that are like on like this form, vertical, like it's difficult, and like trying to cut things. And so I just let it, I just kind of let it rock. I'm like, if I'm saying too many times, I guess I'll just have to learn. Like, it is what it is, I guess. So,
Yeah, so just like let it flow naturally.
Gotta just let it, you know, be yourself.
Yes. In that, the idea of being yourself, you're putting your thoughts and your words down on paper when you're writing poetry. So what does the writing process look like for you? Like, what's the, I guess, set the scene for us. Is music on, or, you know, is it silence? What do you like to surround yourself with, and how do those ideas come to you?
So I have a tagline for my blog, and for any writing, honestly, my page in general, it's words inspired by my life to encourage you through yours, because it may be something that I've gone through that you're currently going through, and something that I've written based off of my experience can help you.
Yeah.
And I find that that's a lot of the basis of my writing. It's like I've gone through something, or I'm currently going through something, or I'm currently feeling something, and I have to get it down somehow. Like it's like, that's a part of my healing process, and I feel like that's why I aim to really encourage and uplift with my words, mostly, first and foremost. I feel like my writing atmosphere is different each time. It's really interesting. I feel like sometimes maybe I'll be washing the dishes and I'll be like a phrase or something will just hit me, and I have to like stop immediately and like write it down in my phone real quick before I forget it. Or I'm in the shower and I think of something. Or there'll be times I'll sit there and I won't have anything, and I'm just like writing random things. And I'm writing because I'm like, sometimes it's frustration of like, I can't think of a specific theme or poem to write, and then something will come out of that. And so music, no music, it can be either. I feel like sometimes having some background music is nice, especially if it's something that I'm feeling right now. Janae Aiko is great. I love her. And so, I think it's just different for everyone. And I think that's another thing about having the whole, you know, stereotypes. It's like, well, if I'm a writer, I have to have my specific space. And there is a time in which I cannot work at home because it's distracting. I have other things to do, so I have to be out and about. But I feel like, you know, if you're gifted with writing, with poetry, whatever, like, it's going to hit you in day-to-day. It's going to hit you right now. Like, in moments like this, it's going to hit you while you're ordering your tea or coffee. It's, you know, it's just an everyday thing for me.
So you take your notes down on your phone then?
Every once in a while. Like, because right now, like, my purse is so tiny. And I'm going to get a new one because I really want to fit my journal in there. Or I get little mini journals to fit in my tiny purse. But mostly, phones are just always in our hands or in our pockets. It's just quicker to just do it on the phone real quick. And I prefer writing things out, but my hand gets cramped, y'all. Like, I'll have my thoughts are going quicker than my hand.
Yeah.
So sometimes the phone is just easier just to like get it down. It'll autocorrect itself, or like I can go back and edit it quicker than like me trying to like go back and, you know.
That's the truth of it, because it's like, it sounds nice and poetic to be like, I like to write it down.
It is.
And I do like that too. Like, I prefer
paper,
and pen.
The aesthetic is nice and everything, but sometimes
do too. Yeah, just the reality of it is you're like, okay, I can't.
Yeah, like literally I've had to stop, or like I've had to like push myself, and my handwriting looks ugly. It looks so ugly because like I'm like, but I have to write it down, like I'm already here and I don't want to stop, and like so I have the ugliest handwriting ever when I'm writing.
Because you're just trying to like get it down.
Yes, you don't want it to like escape you. It's like a moment, because I feel like sometimes like you miss a moment, and I've done this so many times, and it like gets on my nerves. Like you'll have a moment or a phrase or just something that you're thinking of, and it's like, okay, I have to write it down when I get home. By the time you get home, it's gone. Like that moment has passed, so you have to like take the opportunity.
Don't wait, because that happens to me. It's funny you mentioned like in the shower, like that's the best moment to think, but it's like the worst time because you don't have, you're like, exactly. Like the thigh has washed away with the water.
Like they need to have like waterproof like markers or something. Like they have to have something so you can write it down in the shower and then like come back and be like, that's what I was thinking.
You know, like the kids' crayons that they can just like write.
I'm gonna have to bring some of those. I'm gonna have to buy some of those and actually use those.
And so on the tile, you're just like writing your ideas.
That's exactly what you have to do. Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna have to do it. We've solved the problem. Getting some kids' shower tub crayons. Oh my goodness.
That's an idea. Like, hey.
I legit think I'm gonna do that. Because there's too many ideas I've lost in the shower. Gone down the drain.
It would be like really cute too, and just like take photos of it, and that adds to your aesthetic. Yes,
it would be. Oh, see, ideas. Look, I'll give you the credit.
I'm gonna get together,
and the ideas are formed. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. We gotta make it a thing now. We gotta make it a thing.
We do.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's do it.
So when you're writing, I'm wondering how much of it is pulled from your own personal experience. Because I know with a lot of different musicians, they'll be writing these songs and you're like connecting with it so much.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I love that you were talking about this. And then you actually hear the story behind it and they're like, oh, well, actually it was a friend that experienced this, or that was a scenario I came up with in my head, and it's not necessarily their own personal experience. So how much of that is pulling from your real life? How much of it is, is it a combination of ideas?
I feel like, so percentage-wise, like 75 to 90. It's like, that's a really wide range. Yeah. But like 75 to 90% of like what I write is based on my life. Just because like I know my experiences. I'm an expert on my life. And so I'm an expert on my feelings. Oh, okay, I shouldn't say that. Not an expert on my feelings because I still got stuff to go through. But I know my feelings and I know my emotions. And so it's easier for me to come at that, whereas like if it's someone else, like I can understand, I guess, hearing their story, like what I can perceive from that, but I can't necessarily feel how they're feeling. But there have been a few poems here and there where it's like I've encountered someone or a situation from someone else and I've written about it. But yeah, most of the time it's my experiences in my life. It's just easier to, I guess, pull from that. Than to like kind of assume certain things. I mean, it is kind of creative though, and nice to like kind of assume maybe this is what happened, or you could like make different branches of different scenarios and things. So.
I think I could see it. It's more fun that way, and honestly, I view songwriting as poetry. Like there's
it definitely is.
And so because there's a specific structure to it, in the same way that you could say there's structure to poetry writing, and then it's just what you're trying to get across. Sometimes it can be a lot more abstract and it's not necessarily straight to the point, and that's so I'm like it's a form of poetry writing
for sure.
So being able to paint stories, even if it's like your own influence, but then getting creative with it and injecting all these other factors into it to paint this picture. It's awesome.
And I think it's interesting. I've literally said this. I read this book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and there's a part in there where I just was like, I love it so much. I've talked about it so much recently, and she talks about how she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and doing, she goes on book tours and stuff, and she said there was this one moment where this woman came up and was like, I'm so thankful for your book. Like, it made me, like, realized that I needed to leave my husband and all this stuff. And she like writes in the next paragraph, she's like, in no way, shape, or form does that have anything, like my book has nothing to do with leaving your husband or like anything. Like she was like, but that's what that person got out of it. And honestly, so that just like opened my eyes to the fact of like, I could write about something about my life or someone else that like, in a certain perspective, and then someone else can like read it and just put it, like lay that over their own life. And it may not even be the exact same situation. It's not the same like emotion or whatever, but they'll go up to you and be like, I loved your poetry. It made me feel like this. And in your mind, you're like, that is not what it was about. But I'm so glad you got that out of that. Like, it's not so much, I think artists get so caught up in like, no, you have to understand that this is what it's about. It's not about this. It's like, just let the artist freely like, let them create, and then let the audience freely interpret it for themselves, because that's how you can make the connect. Because you're not going to be able to always like meet someone right where they're at, not all the time. And so it's nice. That's why too, like with the writing process, sometimes I kind of keep things kind of general. And at first I was like, maybe I should get more specific with it, but sometimes keeping it general will allow the audience to really interpret it in their own way and put their own situation. It gives them that freedom, and I think it's important as an artist to do that. Like allow them to have that freedom to interpret it in a way. It's kind of like painting. People be interpreted in all sorts of different ways. The artist is completely like, I literally just kind of like, but I'm glad you got that. So I think that's important.
Leaving it open to interpretation. And then because people find all these different meanings that you had not even considered, and you're like, actually that's a great idea. It's not what I meant, but hey.
Exactly.
That with Get Out, when everyone was analyzing it and they were like, this is what Jordan Peele is intentionally doing these things, and he was like, that's not what I was doing, but bang,
it fits. Like, and it's important for there to be that wiggle room. You don't want it to be trained so specifically on something that like it only specifies to those people or to that situation or to that emotion in that situation. So
that flexibility.
You need that flexibility.
So you've been able to successfully transition your poetry from paper to the digital realm, on stage, and then also these events called Words with Women. And I just want you to be able to elaborate, tell the audience here what Words with Women is, like how that idea came about, what it's all about, and if you have an upcoming one, or then plug that too.
So Words with Women, it was literally just like this slight idea I had in my head, because I was thinking, first of all, like, I just love women. Like, we awesome. We're just strong, independent, like, emotional. Like, there's so many aspects of us. And so I just realized, like, I know so many women in my city alone. Like, don't even, like, there's so many other states, countries, whatever. But in my city alone that, like, do different things. They're in different creative fields. They're in different occupations and come from different religions, households, whatever. And so I was like, it would be so dope if all the women I knew got together and we got to eat brunch together. And I talked to my coworker about it, and she was like, that's a great idea. Like, that would be really awesome. I was like, I just like want you guys to get to know each other, because I feel like they'll never get to know each other, and the common denominator is me. So like we could all get together and like get to know each other. And the more that I thought about the idea, I was just, and then like, as it turned into 2019, and then National Women's History Month was coming in March. I was like, it would be super dope to do it in March. And I was like, and it would be super dope to really like focus on the woman and like the different aspects of it, how complex we are, and sometimes the doubts that we have as women and the lies that we're told as women, and then the truth, against that. And so I was like, I should make this like an event type thing. And so I have it at the Creperie here at Adele's, which is owned by a woman. Like she's actually really young. I think she's in high school.
Oh,
and so she's like, it's just like nice. Like it's all like the area is great, and I just wanted us all to gather around and just discuss like as each of us are individually in our different places in life, a mother, a student, social worker, a creative, like how can we all come together and still be unified? Because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of like pettiness that we as women, are put our hands into
Yeah.
like all the time. Like we're comparing ourselves against other women. We're, dogging on other women.
Yep.
And then we haven't even gotten to the whole colorism or racial issue with women. And so there are different, there are different people of races and like I said, religious backgrounds and stuff there. We were able to just be there, and I wanted us to be like, we're from different, backgrounds and everything, but we're women.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be sisters. This is supposed to be like a sisterhood. We can't, expect to move forward if we're holding each other back because of pettiness. And so I wanted just it to be a peaceful unification of that. And so I was able to speak my poem, A Word with Women, to them and just show like, this is how I picture womanhood and sisterhood being, as just this peaceful unification of all of us. And then we do little like prompt things, like creative things. So the first time it was more like you have a sheet of paper, you write something on the front, like a doubt, and then the lie, or the truth. The doubt and lie on the front, the truth on the back. And then the last one we did like collages. So like magazines and stuff, and like reflecting who we are and how we perceive ourselves, not how other people have said we are. So just like doing creative things like that, little prompts, asking questions, and really delving into who we are as women. And so I don't have another date for the next one, but because I'm gonna be like, summer's busy, and so I'm gonna be out of town and different things, but I'm hoping like either end of summer, beginning of fall, I'll have the next one all scheduled and stuff.
That would be amazing. Yeah. I hate that I missed the last one.
I know, I wanted you to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love for people, I mean, at first it was kind of a closed event the first time because I was like, this is just testing it out, and I just want my closest like women friends to be there so I can have like really good feedback on like how I can, better this event. And 10 people showed up, and I was like, that's great, because at first I was like, I don't know if anybody's gonna show up, and like my boyfriend was actually like, don't worry about the numbers, like this is, you have to think of the purpose behind why you're doing this. And I was like, you're right. And 10 people showed up, and it was just amazing, like seeing just the vulnerability of everyone. And, like, there were tears shed, and like I was emotional. The second one I was even more emotional because more people showed up, and it was just crazy to see the support that people were willing to be in that space. So you gotta come to the next one. I want more people, like even if you're out of town or whatever, like I'd love for people to just, it's an open event for all women.
Everybody descend on Chattanooga for this, all the wonderful women come together for this event.
Oh my gosh, we'd have to like get a different space if it got even bigger.
Yes.
So
that's a good amazing problem to have, though. Yeah. You were speaking about the theme that I was pulling from this was like this idea of self-love, and I know that you write about it in your poetry also. So do you have any kind of pointers for someone who maybe whatever point they are in their life, maybe they're struggling with loving themselves? Because I think it doesn't matter how old you get, you learn things along the way, but you're still struggling with comparing yourself, struggling with just doubts and that come along being in a space with other women. And so it's honestly refreshing that you're able to present this space where women could be around each other and not be at odds or be competing, but to be working together and be able to express themselves creatively and just take a moment to themselves and actually get as far as to be like, this is what I appreciate about myself. So do you have any pointers, any tips as to how you can work on loving yourself from day to day?
Okay, so it's interesting because I'm still currently in this healing process of like rediscovering myself, because when you're growing up and you're in a parent's household and stuff, like you see yourself as a certain way, then you go to college and then you're completely you're constantly evolving, and you're loving yourself through each different phase. And like now I'm in this phase where I'm creating and now I'm in a relationship, and so like trying to remember, and I think I got this idea from Jada Pinkett Smith from Red Table Talk. She like talks about just like having to strip herself down and know who Jada is outside of being a mother, outside of being Will Smith's wife, and so I feel like that's where I currently am in, like having to strip myself down and be like, not how my parents viewed me, not how my friends view me or my boyfriend or whoever. It's like, who do I feel like I am? And even deeper than that, like, who does God say I am? And I feel like that's the key to it all, is reminding yourself that you have to remind yourself who God is and how you are in relation to Him, and how He created you to be. Because at the end of the day, like everybody else's opinion of you, like it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It really doesn't matter. And I feel it's easier said than done. I
Yeah.
say that now, and then like I'll leave here and be like, oh my gosh, I told somebody that. And like, but you have to be able to, and I'm learning this again, like right now, like I'm such a sensitive person, and it's a double-edged sword. And you have to really learn, like, okay, like, don't take things too personally.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, there's a time in which you do have to have conversations and stuff about how you did feel about certain things, and
right.
how, you know, you do view yourself because of those things. And so I would say, like, you know, again, just outside, like, pulling yourself back from that and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, who do I say that I am? Not what other people have said. I've like put this post about how people say you know, they love my hair, she's so pretty, the hair. Well, like, there's other aspects about me. Like,
yeah.
I can't just base my beauty off of the hair.
Yeah.
What else do I see? Not other people, but I see that's beautiful about me. And so, yeah, I think it's a lot of self-reflection, and I think people are scared
Yeah.
to do that. It's a nerve-wracking thing to be alone and have to really ask yourself those questions. People don't want to do that. I admit there are times I'm like, I don't want to sit down and right here and like do this about, you know, I don't want to talk about myself and like think about these things, but it's important for you, and it's also important for when you're interacting with other people.
Yeah.
So self-reflection is huge.
Yeah.
You got to be able to separate yourself from other people's opinions and different things like that.
Yeah. I think that's important and so true. So true what you were saying.
It's a process. But we all got to go through it. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think there's ever a time, and I won't say that. Like, you can definitely have prolonged moments of like, I know who I am. But I feel like every once in a while you'll still hit that moment of like, wait, like, do I like myself?
Yeah.
Like, do I really love myself? Like, and you have to remind yourself. It's a constant reminder.
Checking in, I
Yes,
guess.
always,
Yeah.
always.
So when it comes to interacting with other people, you're in all these different environments. You're talking about your words with women, and so you're amongst this big group of people. When you're on stage, when you're talking to the camera, how do you deal with it? Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Okay, so it's interesting. I feel like I'm an ambivert.
Okay.
Honestly, and I feel like more people are starting to like, because I would say like at first like I'm an extrovert all the way, and compared to some people I am.
Yeah.
But then I will get in certain circles where I'm a little more introverted, and I'll be quiet, and I just like to observe and listen. And I feel like now I'm starting, because I'm getting more used to being in those circles, I'm letting myself come out a little more and more. But when I'm initially like in a group where I've never seen these people before, I've never met these people before, or I only know one or two people there, I'm very much like, I'm just gonna observe where I am first and be quiet and like see, and that way if I can see how everybody, like read the room basically, if I can read how everybody else I can like say, okay, this is how I can interact with this person or this group, or, you know, and like not even necessarily that I'm not being myself, but just like there are certain aspects of your personality that you let out in certain circles. And so I would say, ambivert. I feel like more people are starting to say that they're ambiverts now. Because you're not, I don't know, I just feel like very rarely are you full extrovert or like full introvert.
Yeah.
You can be probably more, you know, more balanced. If I were to answer, it'd be more extroverted than introverted, but in certain circles, introverted.
No, yeah,
You know?
I agree, because I think you're never all just one thing. Like, there are so many gray areas in life, including with our personalities.
Yeah.
And depending on the people that you're around, the setting that you're in, you're gonna act accordingly. So I think it varies. So I'm always just like interested in asking people to see how they view themselves, and I'm like, if I'm interacting with you too, like when it comes down to communication, it's like, how do you communicate with others? Yeah. So I know you said on stage you get nervous, which doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert. Like, everybody gets nervous when they're on stage. But in these situations with these groups, do you find it hard to converse with them? Is it a challenge? Like, if it's I know you said like the words with women, there are women that are in your life, but if you come across any that maybe you don't know as well, just how is your communication style?
It's interesting. I actually did. This happened at the last post with women. There were women who came, and I didn't know who they were, and I was like, oh, which is exciting because it's like they heard about it and they, you know, they were curious and they wanted to see. So, I think for me, like in my mind, I don't know how they viewed it, but in my mind, I was like, okay, like I don't want to overwhelm them, like because it was a pretty crazy environment. Like there's magazines everywhere, people are cutting up things, people are like laughing and having conversation, and like I just wanted them to feel welcome, and that was the biggest thing. Is like, if anybody new comes into my life, I always want them to feel safe. Like I want them to feel like, and it doesn't mean that they have to open up to me like immediately or they have to be vulnerable, but like I do want them to feel like, yeah, like, you know, we're here, like, I'm not gonna be hostile to you, I'm not gonna read you, I'm not gonna, like, you know, I'm just here to, like, make sure that you feel comfortable in this space. And so, I feel like, the last time when I was meeting those women, part of me was like, is this awkward? Like, do I sound awkward? Like, in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I'm, like, making sense, like, about what I'm saying, and I don't know how they feel, but, I guess, like, now that it's been, like, a few weeks, almost a month, I think, since the last one of those women actually reached out to me. So I feel like the vibe was like, okay, like translated correctly, like I'm just here to welcome you, and if you have any questions, and this is what this is about, like, and just trying to get to know them, and make them feel heard. I think that's what a lot of people want, is, especially when they first step into a space, is they just want to feel heard and feel like they're seen, and not even just like in a flashy way, just like, you know, noticed, you know, in some sort.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like, I exist. I did a video on this a couple videos ago, and it was talking about the importance of acknowledgement, and just like saying hello to somebody and how much of a difference that can make for somebody, because you just never know the place that somebody's in, and to know that you're seen, that you're heard, that what you're saying is valid, then it can do amazing things for somebody.
I feel like everybody's been in that situation where they are the quiet person, and like you kind of long for someone to come up to you, and so when I am in a place and I notice that someone's by themselves and I see that they're kind of hesitant, like I try to make it my point to go to them and say, like, I noticed, like, hey, like, you know, why are you here? Like, what do you do? Like, just try to, give them that sense of acknowledgement, like you said. It's important for everyone to feel that way. Because at some point we've all felt like that. So.
Yeah, we need people like you in the world, because, like, oftentimes I am that person that'll go in a room and I'm trying to read the room and fill it out, and it's coming across as like, oh, she must be reserved or shy or whatever, and it's like, I just need prompting, and if it's like the person that's like, hey, how you doing, and just starts the conversation, you're like, oh, okay, and
that's when you can step into it. And people sometimes just need that.
Just need to be prompted to do it. So I feel like you are a upbeat person. You have a warm, welcoming presence about yourself.
Thank you.
And I know that for everyone there's nuance, and there are days where you're not gonna necessarily feel upbeat and happy. So when you get in a place of like maybe a negative headspace, or just not feeling yourself, how do you pull yourself out of that?
It's difficult. I actually felt like the deepest, and I don't want to say darkest place, but like one of the harder places I've been was during the wintertime, this past winter. It was more about the whole self-love thing. I was deep in it, and like having to constantly check myself, and I feel like writing obviously is like the biggest thing, and even if I'm not sharing it, like it's just for myself. Sometimes it's the most healing thing, is like, it may sound good, but this is for me. It's not for anybody else to see, and it's just, you know, for me to go back and understand where I am right now in my thought process. I think reminding myself that seasons come, and seasons go, because when I'm in a dark place, it's easy to be like, this is gonna last forever. Like, oh my gosh, and like, but I have to remind myself, like, no, a few months back you were upbeat, you were, you know, great, and you're doing, you know, awesome things, and like, and so it's okay to be here right now. Like, and I feel like accepting that. People don't want to accept the negative, and like you said, people see me as such an upbeat person. Like, I don't think she ever gets upset. Like, no, I definitely get upset at things, and I definitely have hard times. I just don't show it as easily. But I feel like just accepting the fact that, okay, I'm in this hard space. I have to admit that, and that's the first step to healing. And just being able to move forward, having conversations with people that I trust, who, you know, won't talk about it to everybody else, but will just give me solid advice as to what I should probably do, who point to the Lord and tell me, you know, like, you need to bring it to God. And even though, like, that's such a cliche thing, like, give it to God, pray about it, like, it's so important to do, because the Lord does care about us, and he cares about our hearts and where we are, and I feel like he does confirm things for us, and he does just, even if it doesn't make it all better, like it doesn't heal it all away, there have been moments where I'm like in such a deep spot, but like I see, and this is like, people are like, that's such a symbol, like whatever, but I'll see like a butterfly. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like a reminder, like, okay, like God sees me.
Yeah.
He sees me right here, and he just let that happen, and like reminded me, like, it's, you know, you're okay. Like, I know you're in a dark space, but like, I've got you. Yeah. You know? And so I think it's helpful to just, and to move forward and just like know, it's so easy to just give like little tips of like, how do you pull yourself out of certain situations, but I think just every day reminding yourself it's a process, and that every day is a healing step, a healing stepping stone, and so I think I feel like there's no easy way to explain. I think everybody does it differently, and then some people do go to, you know, harder things like drinking and you know, and sometimes they have to get to that low point in order for them to move past even that. And so
I think that's true what you were saying. It looks different for everybody. I think what's really important is us admitting that we're human beings, and that, you know, it's okay. Like,
giving yourself grace. Like, that's huge. I feel like people get so down on themselves when they realize they're in a spot and they feel like they shouldn't be there. And it's like, life is like this. If life were like this, it'd be boring. Like, we have to have ups and downs, and we won't evolve fully and grow into the people we're supposed to become unless we go through the hard times that we do. And I find recently, I've literally found that anything that I have gone through that's really rough, literally like the next day or the next week or really close to that time, someone will come to me and be like, I'm having this issue, I'm having this stuff, and it's the exact same feeling. And it's like, sometimes God's putting you through that so you can be the person that person can seek advice from, and that you can be able to like minister to them in that way. So
that's a great point. And in many ways, I feel compelled to even, you know, have this video series, whether it's me talking on my own or interviewing people, because everybody has all these different life experiences, and I think that it's so important to hear people out, and what your experience as a writer, as a performer, just as a human being is, it's going to be so unique and different from each other person I'm talking to. But your story, what you've gone through, how you know, heal, could speak to a person that's watching right now in a very just like a very specific way, and just like hit them, and it's unexpected. So I want to be able to give people platforms to speak to their life experiences, and how they communicate with others. So, you know, through communication, you might think of like a formal way, but like through your poetry, how you're speaking through your poetry, how you communicate in your, you know, everyday life, and just how you communicate the emotions that you have. So I just think it's a beautiful thing, and to be able to sit down and talk to somebody about it, it feels great.
Yes. I love it.
All the feels.
All the feels. It's just so natural. Like, I love this because it just feels natural.
Yeah.
You know? It's great.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's not like I hear interviews sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like it's all staged, but this is just free flowing.
Yeah.
I love it.
What's coming to our minds, and just I like picking people's brains, and I find that because when I'm talking to people and I'm like, hey, I want to interview you, then I send questions in advance just so you have some sort of outline of what you can expect, because so it doesn't feel like, I don't know, an ambush or something, you know? And,
I feel it.
But I don't expect anybody, like, no one has, and I don't expect anyone to have like these robotic answers. And then usually it's just like,
I know. I was thinking, I was like, should I like write down my answers? Like, no. And I was like, if I write it down, then it'll seem rehearsed, and you don't want it to be rehearsed. You just want it to just come. As it goes.
And I think people can sense that, and every time I've interviewed somebody, like, the answers blow me away, honestly. Like, what you guys say, I'm just like, oh my gosh. You're like, these, like, my mind is being blown. You can probably see it on screen. I'm like, oh.
The wheels are starting to turn.
Yes. And I'm like, this is even, like, when I'm writing that question, like, I think I know what kind of answer I'm trying to get here, but it'll be so much more than I could have expected, and I love it, and it makes me so happy. So, yes,
I love it.
This whole process is just, it makes me happy, and it makes me feel like, okay, this is meant to be, it's for a purpose.
Yes.
So,
Woo, speak it into existence.
Yes. speaking of purpose, I know that you are in an environment where you know a lot of different creatives. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of like shout out some creatives that you know, suggest it. And I will have an accompanying blog that pairs with this video. And so I'll just give more background on Mishea la, her work. And then there we'll have like a written version of handles and things like that for creatives and kind of link through.
I was like trying to go through, I was telling her, I was like, I have them all on my phone. That like I don't want to take up all the time, obviously. There's like a million creatives in Chattanooga, like, as there probably are in Atlanta. And like, so to try to name everyone is like impossible. It's impossible. But I feel like these are creatives that have specifically helped my journey and really pushed me. I actually didn't write down a couple of them, so I'm going to write them real quick. I just realized, There's just so many people. They've just helped me. So the first one will be my sister, Kae'sha, and she's a pianist. She's a piano teacher, which is awesome because she started doing what she has always wanted to do, like right out of college. So
she's a music major, right?
Yeah. So she does that, but she's also like super cute because she does bullet journaling. So the Blasian Alchemist is who she is on Instagram, and she just does like, she's so creative when it comes to like format. So I feel like she could like totally make planners and things for people and get money for it. She's just awesome. So she's obviously, as my blood sister, you know, helped me. We've kind of grew up in a creative household. We've bounced off of each other creatively, and so she's one. The next one is my sister, soul sister, Juanita Montgomery. She's a amazing painter. She's also a poet as well, but her main form is painting, and she does like art that nobody's ever seen before, like, you know, glow in the dark paint, and like just the colors that she uses and the different characters. Like I think she uses like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, like different things like that. She's just so unique. And so she like is just different, like, and I love it, and she deserves it. She deserves all this. She needs like more support like that. Like I feel like there's so many painters and like different genres of work, and she's awesome. I love her. She's a great supporter of me, and I'm a great supporter of her. My sister, Kimmie J Soul, she's a musician. Her album's going to drop in July. She's going to have an album party. So if you can make it to that sounds like I think it's July 7th. She's kind of classical training and singing. So she's like old school kind of, and like I'm actually featuring on one of her songs, doing poetry at the end. And so she's an amazing musician. Beautiful voice. Like, whew, like it just gives me chills to hear her sing. I'm like, oh,
I have to go follow all these people.
Yes, they're just awesome. So with her, there's my friend Garrell, and Jarrell's an amazing musician as well. Both of them together, like if they're singing, I'm like, okay, I gotta sit down. Like he's so great, and he also has a podcast with his sister Aisha. And it's called $2.25 Change, and so they do different topics, and he's just an all-around creative, but like mostly music. He's amazing. Oh my gosh, y'all, there's so many, but he's definitely been someone that I can go to as a creative, and he gives me feedback that's honest, and he hypes me up. Like he hypes me up, and I'm like, how in the world? Like he's just got my support, so like, he has my heart. He's just such a dear friend to me. Emms, Black Sheep Indigo Photography. She does the photos for Words with Women, and the videography for it. She's amazing. Her work is awesome. She does photography for events, for catering. She does it for artists specifically. So she's awesome with the camera. Who else? Oh, my friends, Kids in a Korner. Jasmine, she's a painter. So it's with two people, Jasmine and Tavi. And the Tavi, I'm actually going to start a affirmations Instagram show with her. So we can look forward to that coming next month. And she's also a producer and videographer and editor. And so I feel like all these people are just they have their hand in so much, you know, but they're known for their one specific thing. But I do want to shout out to specifically Caleb, Phenom, the creative. He's the one who got me in my first poet show, like my poetic show, and he's the one who really helped me draw my emotion and rehearse with me and made me cry for good reason, like not in a bad way. And he like prayed with me before I went on stage, and so just a huge shout out to him. I know he's starting to show himself more in the city again. He took a huge hiatus, but he's back, and someone that was really near and dear to my heart because he really helps me, and he's an amazing. He sings when he does his poetry,
nice
too. So it's like these people are just awesome. They're just awesome. And so, and then I think the last one is Elyssia.
Okay.
That I can think of on the top of my head that I've written down. There's so many. I'm so sorry if I don't mention everybody. But Elyssia just started her first blog called The Quirky Journalist, and so it's just going through her life and being in communication and everything, and just doing profiles and whatnot. And she does We Wear Bling. She does like the paparazzi jewelry. So $5 jewelry. Whoop whoop. If you guys want to, get some jewelry for yourselves. So those are all the creatives that I can think of that have really just really helped me, moved me, and just shaped me and encouraged me. Because as a creative, you need support from other creatives.
Definitely.
It's important, and I feel like there's the tendency to be competitive within this field and be like, well, there's so many poets, there's so many painters, there's so many musicians, who am I compared to all of them? But it's no, you're a unique person, and you have to be reminded by other creatives that you are unique and that your voice and your talent matters in that circle.
And that just speaks to how grateful I am. It means so much to me that you agreed to sit down and talk to me about this very topic of communication and how you're using your art to communicate, because you inspired me. Like we said, we first met at the Rocket Summer concert, and we just connected through social media, and I just kind of been following afar and being like, that's so cool, she started this blog and she's doing this poetry, and just seeing you perform along the way, and I was like, I want to talk to her about this, and now I have this opportunity to sit down with you and just kind of flesh it all out, and it's wonderful. And that idea of it doesn't have to be comparing, it doesn't have to be competitive. I'm like, I love what I'm reading, and I'm like, I have something to say too. It's going to look different than what you create, but it's everyone there's space for everybody basically. And I was like, yes, I need to go ahead and write. And I remember being I want to start writing again. You're like, you should do it, and I was like, I will. And then it just sat dormant for a while, and it was like, okay.
And it normally does. Normally people are like, I want to do it, and then they get encouraged you can do it, and then they're like, I gotta sit here and think about it for a second before. But I'm so that's really humbling to me that I was able to, through my own journey, inspire you to do it. And I'm glad that you're doing it. It's so exciting to see you interview different people and also have your own videos. And it's I love when a new creative has come up from the ground. They've been doing it for a little bit, and you're like, yes, because it's something different. It's something different. Even if they're doing the same medium, everyone's personality is different, and so I just love it. Yes, I love it.
Thank you so much. And that's what I ran into when I first started with the videos. There were topics I had in my head, but then I was watching other YouTubers, other creators, and I was like, even your vids, it would be a topic, and I'm like, man, they really covered that, and I feel like they thoroughly covered that, and I'm I want to talk about this, but I don't know if I can. It's no, approach it with your own personality, with your own experience, because it's gonna always be unique. So don't feel like I gotta trash that idea because someone else has done it.
Yes, and you might miss out too on even if you want to do that topic, you personally growing through and realizing what you really think about it.
Right.
I feel like there are people who've given me topics to talk about, and it's but I've kind of already discussed it, but it's a different angle, and I'm but really I could learn something from this personally, so why would I not talk about it?
You're right.
So that's awesome. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I hope that anybody that's watching has gained encouragement. As always, it's always my wish at the end of it. I'm I hope you're encouraged by this, but seriously, I hope that it moves you in some sort of way. If you are a creative and you're just kind of sitting and being I don't really want to show my stuff to anybody, I don't feel confident in it, or whatever it is, or I feel like I don't have something to say. Not true. Everyone
do it.
Yes, exactly.
Do it. You just have to start. You really have to start.
Yes.
Somewhere. And it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to fail right away, and it doesn't mean that, you'll have to gain support for who knows how many months, years, whatever. But as long as you're consistent with it, and that's what you're supposed to be doing and passionate about it, yep, do it.
So true. And I was one of your recent motivational Mishy Mondays, and you were talking about how to pursue a passion that you have if you don't necessarily have support. And I thought that was so important and a great point. So I was I didn't consider that, but when you start off with something, my channel's still growing, and I am so grateful to the people who have agreed to do these interviews. you all have taken time out of your important schedule of your life to do this, but like it's helping me, it's speaking to whoever's watching, and then it's like giving some sort of light to you also. And so I think it's just like it's benefiting everybody that's a part of this. But by being like, yes, I'll be on camera, whether it's somebody that's like, I don't like being on camera or whatever, you know, it's like, but they do it and they agree to it. And I'm so grateful because you're supporting me in that way. So whether or not you're literally being like, yes, go for it, do it, being like, yes, I'll sit in front of this camera, I'll answer these questions for you, like, it's support, and I feel it and I love it, and it feels so great. And
I just thank you for having me. Like, it's a humbling thing to be a part of something, you know, that is growing, and that, like, it's like, what? You want to talk about me and interview me and question me? What? Like, it's really humbling. So I just thank you for asking me.
Yeah,
it's really awesome. It's been great.
Yes. So, anyone watching, thank you so much. If you like more information about Mishea, like I said, I will link down to her social media accounts in the description area. In that blog, you can look for more information about the other creatives that she talked about. And go check out Motivational Mishy Mondays on IGTV. Go check it out.
Feel encouraged. Woo. It's a wild ride, y'all.
Yes. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, then definitely subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit the like button.
Do it.
Do it.
It's a must.
Thank you so much for being with me today.
Of course, thank you for having me. I'm a hug.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.